about Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu Yadav is a director of two firms, Anavio Global and Fair and Global Services, based in Gurgaon. His firm provides specialized HR, payroll, labor law compliance services to companies across India. Prior to starting his own, he has completed his MBA in HR and Masters in Labor Law and Labor Welfare from Symbiosis University, Pune. He is also a certified human resource management professional by HR Certification Institute US and is a senior certified professional by Society of Human Resources Management USA. During his professional stint in the last 17 years in human resources domain, Abhimanyu has handled diversified roles and the large teams in recruitment, HR processes, plant, HR, corporate resources across in the banking, retail, manufacturing, biotechnology, life sciences, NGO sectors across countries like India, Vietnam, Philippines, Thailand, Indonesia, and Singapore. He's also worked with the last 2 years in the head of HR. So without taking too much of time, we welcome Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu, welcome to Sotex Connect. And I would like you to start off by sharing us what is the new key developments happening in the labor industry. Thank you so much. And over to you, Abhimanyu.
Thank you so much, Sunil. That was a fantastic introduction, and I hope we will be able to, drive home some advantages for people who are attending the session today. So I'd like to start by thanking every single participant, who found time and joined us today. And I hope the slides are visible.
Yes, it is visible.
All right. So in today's time, it's a very pertinent topic, and thinking about labor laws, and you sort of hit the nail on the head when talking as to what are the latest changes or updates in the labor laws. So before we actually deep dive into some of the labor codes and labor law changes, would like to understand what is the current understanding level of our participants. So if you could launch a poll so that we have an understanding as to in terms of our participants, whether they are very well aware or they need more understanding about the topic. So just let me know if you've launched the poll, and if you can. Yeah. So participants would love to understand, I think Sonal, this is the other one. But anyways, so why don't
Sorry, I have put on the long poll. Let me just do it again.
Yeah. That's okay. So you're doing it again?
Yes, I have just launched it again.
Okay. So we would just like to quickly, would take 2-3 seconds to understand, where we are in terms of our understanding, and, would love to understand. And then I would be able to, pace myself accordingly as per the understanding. So maybe Sonal, we can run it for 5 more seconds and then see the results.
Yes, we are just closing the poll now in next second. Yeah.
Right.
So I'm just sharing the results now with you.
Fantastic. So for those of you, who feel they are not updated or need more clarity, of course, you are at the, right session and right place today. And we hope by the end of the session, you would have certain key takeaways from today's session. Right. So moving on. Okay, I think let me just try and stop share, and I think the slide seems to have. All right. So for a business owner, why is it important to know about the labor laws? Of course, as all of us know that it directly impacts the workforce, how business is done in the country and worldwide, and who is impacted. So if you see, essentially speaking, any company operating in manufacturing, service, textiles, trading, I've just tried to note down a few of them, is actually impacted by labor laws. And, it is extremely important for us to know what is there in store in terms of the existing laws and what is going to change in the coming times, right? Now, so we must be thinking that, why there is this introduction of new labor laws. There are 4 new labor codes which have been introduced. Essentially, there are a number of reasons, but I would highlight as to, 3 or 4 important ones. One is if, I'm sure a lot of business owners, if, who are there on the session today, would agree with me that, there is a lot of multiplicity of laws when you think about, something which is applicable on states and other things which are applicable at a central level. So to avoid multiplicity of laws, the government has decided and gone ahead, to merge 29 different labor laws into 4 labor codes. Of course, to simplify the compliances, it is also a step in the right direction to ensure ease of doing business, where government has been constantly trying to drive the rankings up. Of course, other things are equally important, looking at ensuring that, we keep a step with 21st century in terms of our labor laws, in terms of modernizing them and ensuring that there is an uniformity as well as the enforcement from the government side is equally there. Sonal, there seems to be some, okay. All right. So I'm sure there will be a lot of questions in your mind as to, what is the impact it is going to have on the businesses right now, how much of the impact is there? What is the impact on wage or salary structure, things like PF, ESI and gratuity? So by the end of the session, of course, with the time at hand, we'll try and cover most of these questions and you'll be in a good position to, understand and then try and implement some of the changes in your own companies. Okay, quickly diving deep into, which are the 4 labor codes. So the first one is Code on Wages 2019. This is a mix of 4 different labor laws, which I have spoken about. So we'll be talking a little bit more in the slides to come on this. So what I'll be doing is I'll be taking Code on Wages and Code on Social Security a little bit in depth during the, while I'll talk. And the other 2 labor law codes we will take during the Q&A session. So this is the first one. The Social Security Code, of course, it also has 9 different labor laws which are merged into it. Again, I am not diving deep into it, but labor laws like PF, ESI, Maternity Benefit Act, Payment of Gratuity Act, all those things are part of this code, this particular code. Okay, the Industrial Relations Code, of course, another important area where, complete discussion about the trade unions, about the Industrial Disputes Act, as well as the standing orders comes into play. So this has also undergone a major change. And the last one, of course, is again, very important, talking about the health, safety and welfare of our workforce. So this is perhaps the biggest one, which has almost 13 labor laws which are merged into it, right? Okay, moving on and talking a little bit in depth about Code on Wages. So first, let's look at what is the definition of a wage and what is the applicability of this particular code. So the first major change which you would notice is that the government has removed the requirement of minimum number of employees for the applicability of this code. So essentially, which means that any number of employees, the code is applicable, but they have kept the bonus provision separate from this. So other than bonus, it is applicable on all the companies. Now looking at the definition of wage. Now from our perspective, this slide is a little busy slide, but try and listen to what I try and explain. So there are two parts to it. One is what is called inclusions and second is exclusions. So essentially the wage here is defined as, something on which the other provisions would become applicable, like a PF or a gratuity and the other provisions, right? So it will include basic pay, it will include DA or dearness allowance, and it will also include retaining allowance. Retaining allowance essentially is paid in certain industries, like if you're aware, cane industry, for example, they retain their employees in off seasons and the retention allowance is paid to them, right? And what is the implication of this definition? I'll talk about quickly in the slides to come. Okay, so first let's look at what is the cost and business impact as far as this particular provision goes. So as I was talking, let's take an example of an employee whose basic is, let's say, 15,000, right? And okay, let's change the example. So let's say the salary is somewhere at 30,000 and the basic is 10,000, right? Currently, it is 13% that the employer's contribution goes, which is about 1,300 rupees. While as per the new law, since the wage definition has to be minimum 50% of the total salary, it will go up to 15,000 and the differential of the 650 rupees would come into play. So you see the impact on PF, straight away it has gone up. And similarly for gratuity, if you see, in the same example, it will go up from about 29,000 to about 43,000. So this is the first impact which is there. Second important thing is to talk about, what are the prohibitions. So as we understand that, the code clearly, says that we cannot discriminate against any employee on the grounds of gender or payment of wage or the nature of work that, they are doing. So if it is similar, the wages need to be similar, and there are very stringent provisions if, the provisions are not followed. All right. Now, this appropriate government is essentially either it is a central government or a state government, depending on the code and the provision. But there is a clear movement towards a minimum wage, which will be a floor level minimum wage across India. So till now, as such, all the state governments were deciding as to what will be the minimum wage which is applicable for their state. But once this comes into play, none of the state governments would be able to decide or fix a minimum wage which is less than the average or the floor level minimum wage of India. Now, the provisions in terms of how this is paid and calculated remain more or less same. It is either on time work basis or piece rated, so I'll not go too much into this. But the important part is to know that these four changes which I am talking about. So one is the floor level minimum wage, which I've spoken about. Second is this introduction of this category called highly skilled. So this is another change which is in the new wage code where this category has been introduced. Third is in terms of claim for wages. So if let's say if wage is not received or if it is less than the minimum wage, in the new provisions, an employee can raise a claim up to 3 years, after the non-payment of wage. Earlier, in the earlier provisions, it was 6 months. And of course, now the minimum wage provision has been expanded, and now it becomes applicable on a larger set of employees. And all the employees have essentially come into the ambit of this. Quickly, just talking about, what are the major changes. So in terms of provisions, like I've already mentioned, earlier employees whose wages were up to 24,000 were included in this definition. And with the new provisions, now this has gone away. So it will be applicable on all the employees. Now, this table will give you a little bit hint as to, what are the consequences for an organization, if there is a shortfall in payment. So if you look at, there is a shortfall, for a particular employee, let's say 2,000 rupees, right? And you pay, as far as this definition goes, 6 months versus 3 years, which I have spoken about in the previous slide. In the current scenario, the shortfall total payment for 6 months would be 1,20,000. But since now the claim can be done up to 3 years, this will go up to 7,20,000. So you can see the implication in terms of the seriousness if the provision is not followed is huge. And this, if the company employs larger set of employees, then the implication is much higher. Now moving to payment of bonus, of course, one important change that I'm highlighting is in terms of the exclusion or disqualification of bonus. So, one provision has been added. If somebody, if an employee has been convicted of any offense under Sexual Harassment Act, then he'll not be eligible for bonus, right? And the ceiling as such remains same. We are just waiting for the government if there is any notification with respect to the ceiling. So, it remains at 21,000, as most of us would be aware. Quickly moving on to who can file a claim. Of course, an aggrieved employee, an employee himself can file a claim. An inspector cum facilitator can file, or a registered trade union can also file a claim on behalf of such aggrieved employee. Right. So again, this a couple of very busy slides, but you can ignore the slides and just understand that the implication in terms of penalty and the chances of imprisonment of the occupier or the owner of the company is getting severe in the new codes. So, and of course, repeat offenses are again dealt more severely. So just, I think that is more important for you to know. Right, so that was about the code on wages, and quickly talking about code on social security, which is the second important code which is there. And here again, what is happening is the definition of employer has been reinforced, has been very clearly explained. Now it includes, in addition to the occupier of the factory or the owner or the managing director, the contractor through which the employee is employed, or in case of a deceased employee, the legal representative of such an employee is also now, supposed to be part of this definition. Very interesting change. If you must be thinking, we heard these terms: gig workers, platform workers, people who are driving Ola or Uber cabs, or the delivery, employees who are delivering on behalf of Zomato or companies like that. So what happens? So these are called gig workers, platform workers, freelancers, and unorganized. So till now, the focus of most of the laws was more on the organized workers. Now with this social security code, again the definition or the ambit has been increased, and it is talking about a lot of these other categories also will fall into the definition of a worker. All right, this you've spoken. So self-employed, home-based workers, people who are servicing at home or helping, or wage workers. So all these people would be covered under unorganized workers. Okay. Now, just looking at of course, if you look at the analysis, I've already sort of shared that impact of PF is going to rise. But if you look at the impact in terms of, let's say, take an example of a company which has 100 people. So you can see the impact of if the provisions are violated for this particular company, for which has 100 people, for in 1 month the total share of employee and employer is about 1,20,000. And now, since the ambit or it the provision talks about 5 years, so if it is not done for 5 years, the provisions you can see are very, very stringent. The gap itself is about 72 lakhs, and then you could also have look at possible penalties or delayed interest which are there. So violation or not following the provisions, the government is making it more and more stringent. So on one hand, while the focus is on digitization and automation reducing the inspections, ad hoc inspections from the authorities, but the onus now shifts more on the employer, where we need to ensure as responsible employers that more and more all the provisions are followed, and we become very, very sensitive towards it. Okay, quickly, some of these slides I'll talk about what are the changes. So, as an employer, like I mentioned, the responsibility has increased. So in case there is a mishap, or any benefit has to be paid, the corporation can ask the employer to bear that particular cost, which is not there in the current provisions. So this is one change. Second, if due to the neglect of the employer, let's say these working conditions are not sanitary and the employee catches a sickness, then again the benefit has to be paid by the employer. So there is a provisions towards that. And that is why the code on occupational health and safety becomes very, very important, to ensure that employees' health is taken care. And also, we are not going against any of the provisions which is there. Couple of points which are moving towards ease of doing business, that also I thought I'll just highlight and share with you. So earlier there was no limitation prescribed in terms of any inquiry under section 7A of PF Act, and now there is a limitation of 5 years. So authority cannot open cases, cannot inspect records prior to 5 years. So this is one positive change. And second is in terms of recovery of money under Industrial Disputes Act. There was no limitation, and now there is a limitation of up to 1 year it could be done. Last piece is mostly about pandemic. So last year the government realized that there could be contingencies like a pandemic or a natural disaster, where there is a provision in the new law that the government through a notification can defer or reduce the contributions towards CSI, PF and the likes for a period up to 3 months. So this provision has been added. So there is no need to introduce a law or issue an ordinance for that. Earlier, this provision was not there. Again, I'll just come back to the same thing. Again, a very busy slide, couple of slides. But just notice this thing that the penalties and against the offenses have increased. The risk is higher. So we always advise you as responsible employers to be aware and follow the law, which is extremely important. Right, so that was as far as these two important labor codes were concerned. Those were the things. Before we move on, I would request Sonil to just quickly have an assessment as to where we are in terms of the understanding about at least these two labor codes, and then we'll move forward. Of course, there are a few questions which remain unanswered, and we'll try and cover those in the Q&A session. In the later part of the discussion. So Sonil.
Yeah, I'm just sharing the second poll right now with everyone. So, at least as far as the two codes and the understanding about, a little bit, we were able to talk about the other two codes also. Just let us know what has been your key takeaway from this session in terms of understanding about the topic, or your confidence in terms of being able to implement it. Or feel free to share that if you need more help, you can reach out, and Sonil or our team would be more than happy to assist you with anything. So Sonil, maybe 5 seconds and then we can. Yeah, so I hope everybody is able to understand the crux of the first session. We haven't been getting too many responses on the poll as of now. So maybe in case we can put on this poll again. Yeah, sure. I think the poll, you want me to reshare the poll again? Is it? No, that's okay, Sonil. I think that's okay. I think let us take it up towards the end then. Makes sense, right? So I'm done with the formal part of the presentation, and then we can quickly move on to the Q&A, if that is okay with you. Yes,
Just to wrap it up, sort of.
Just before we move forward,
Yeah.
we have some responses. I'm just sharing the responses with you.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm just sharing the results with you at the moment.
Okay. Fantastic. Fantastic. So 86%, so almost 100% feel that the understanding is improved, and they feel that they'll be able to go back and implement, which is a good sign. And there is a Q&A session again, which is going to follow. So we hope that you'll be able to take away a little more in this, right? So just Sonil, before you, I'll give it back to you. Just talking about a little bit about kind of work. So we, like you mentioned, work with a lot of MSME clients, startups, and we also work with a lot of multinationals. These are some of the clients that we have worked with, over the past several years. And like I mentioned, feel free. I mean, this is an open session to ask questions, to also reach out for help in the industry, and ensuring that we, like I mentioned, start moving towards being more responsible, as business owners, and also taking care of our employees. So over to you, Sonil.
Thank you so much, Abhimanyu, for sharing the quick brief about the current stance in the labor laws and what have been the new developments which are happening. Now, in the event of current pandemic that we are all in, and we face this situation in the first phase, of lockdown, where industry felt there was a need of how to handle the situation from various fronts. So there was challenges in terms of the productions, in terms of the orders, in terms of the fulfillment, and the payments coming in from the buyers on time. Now, knowing that we are in the second wave of lockdown, and we already faced such situation earlier also. What is the stand that a business owners or the business people should take in terms of how we should manage the payrolls? Is it a mandatory to have 100% pays to be given in spite of shutdown or no shutdown or partial shutdown?
Okay, so I'll share an answer in two parts. See, one is in terms of the number of employees which are there in an organization. So as we currently, where we currently stand is up to 100 people. As such, the organization need not go to the government to lay off employees or shut down an enterprise. Of course, we hope that that situation should not come. But beyond 100, we need to approach. Whereas in the new law, which upcoming laws, this limit has been increased to 300. So companies who have a manpower, direct, indirect, up to 300, they can do it on their own. Of course, if the circumstances don't allow them to continue business operations. So which is a positive thing, which is done in terms of ease of doing business. But I'll take a step back, Sonil, and I would urge the employers to think a little more long-term into this. So I would say 2-3 things which we advise is one, to be very sure of their manpower planning. So not to be very ad hoc, be very sure as to what is the requirement in terms of manpower, and keep the do not keep any excess. Ensure that it is up to the mark in terms of planning. Second piece is in terms of ensuring that we do take care of the wages, health, and the well-being of the employees. So as such, the intention is always to take care of employees, and in any such eventuality, of course, employees also come back and help out the organizations. Third piece is about ensuring that we have a contingency fund. So last year we realized that a lot of, especially in MSME, companies do not plan that well in terms of having contingency funds. So we would advise companies to have it for few months, 2 to 3 months, to ensure that the business continuity is there if any such eventuality comes back. So I would say a little bit more in terms of planning on the company side. And now coming to your question, in terms of how it is done. So we see there is, legally speaking, there is no straight answer to this. We need to understand the size of the organization, what is the exact nature in terms of the industry and all. But I would say that ensure that it is, you are empathetic towards the employees, you have your own planning in place, and you take all the stakeholders into the discussion. So I'm sure when you look at whether if it is employee or if it is a trade union or if it is the organization, all three parties come together, they see that there is a challenge and it has to be overcome. I think if all the interests are taken care, it could be managed well.
See, in the heart of the current situation and knowing the industry at large, majority of the businesses are being driven by business owners, and there are small, medium enterprises where it is more of an owner-led organization, or with a very or more like a family-led organization. So the problem comes in wherein, because it is a very, very marginal, I would say a very thin profit margin industry in the current competitive environment. So in the current situation, planning for a contingency fund, especially for an average enterprise which is having about 50 to 100 people, becomes a little challenging. And for a business to sustain itself, where it is not just about 2 or 3 months, it is the cascading effect which happens after the lockdown, where the businesses have to restart from the lost opportunity, and the continuity is missed out. So in that particular event, what should be the stand people should take? And also from the fact that because of the lockdowns, sometimes the labor is not available, or they leave for their hometowns. And what is the right strategy a business owner should do or take, so that there is a win-win situation both for the employees as well as for the employers?
Okay. So I'll come back to the point which I said. So one is, lot many times we as employers, miss our part of the equation. So if I'm assuming if you're taking care of our part of the equation, then I would say follow the appointment letter, follow the discussions, or in written what is there, and have a discussion. And if you feel that it has to be discontinued, talk to those employees and give them notice, and you can discontinue those employees. But having said that, I mean, if there is a discussion on both sides and you understand that it is 1 month or 2 months or a few months kind of a thing, and you want to retain, there is a mutual understanding, could be done. Of course, I'm not giving a blanket answer here. Again, it has to be looked into, again, the nature of agreement, kind of industry, and the number of employees.
So before I shoot out to the next question, I have about few questions. I would like to just take an opportunity to thank our sponsor, VN International, for coming and sponsoring a very smart gift. This organizer, a very nice organizer, a leather wallet kind of an organizer, which is not a leather actually, it's a leatherite kind of organizer, which VN International has been kind enough to sponsor it. And for all the people who are there in the room, I would request, there is a small feedback form which has been posted in the chat box by the team SOTEX. So if you can just leave your feedback and your mailing address, the SOTEX team will pass it on to VN International team, and they will forward this organizer to you. Thank you on that to VN International, our event partners. So coming back on the question, another key area which I feel that in today's time, hiring and retaining the employees, is a critical area. Since the businesses in the current time, especially in the lockdown times, is not very consistent. What we have seen in the last 1 year is suddenly there was a spike in the business, which happened around in the month of September, October, November. But suddenly again, because of the Western world going into the lockdowns and the sentiments being low in the domestic market, the orders started decreasing in the month of January and February. And currently, in the second wave, everything is again coming to more like a virtual standstill. So in this kind of scenario, what should be the ideal situation of hiring and retaining the old employees, hiring new
Okay.
and retaining
Right.
retaining the old ones?
Right. I think that's an important one. Again, I'll talk about be very very sure about at least your planning. Of course, you can't plan for every unforeseen event, but I would say that plan well. Look at the contracts that you are having with the employees. So in the new wage codes, there is a provision for fixed term employees. Do look at that. Although I think, as per my understanding, a lot of companies are already using contractual employees. So see how that can be worked upon. Although I would say that the principal employer is ultimately responsible for those employees. But of course, you get it done through a contractual, contractor. It makes it easy for managing. And in any such eventuality, when the business dips, so you accordingly need to relook at your workforce and see very closely as to which skills or which people need to be let go of, or sort of continued. So that has to be looked upon closely.
So this is one very strategic and I would say a critical area, because businesses often do not want people to be relieved. And some of the key employees who have been there for with the businesses for such long time, it is very heartening to see, and it is difficult for even the business owner to retain them for a longer time. So in such situations, often there is a pressure of not only relieving the employee but also doing finalization of the terms and the compensation, which actually has been done down for years now. So with the
Right.
current scenario wherein the businesses are often on a low cash flows, how one should manage this eventuality?
So, I touched upon this point as to if we currently look at some of the industries, they are already taking advantage of freelancers. Of course, gig workers. There are a lot of roles which could be done from multiple locations remotely. So, as far as some of those roles go, companies are already looking at that option. Second piece is with respect to your existing employees. So, like I mentioned, very keenly, you need to look at things like fixed term employment, which is instead of so you can say a year or a 2 years or 3 years, depending on the role requirement, and also be very very strategic in terms of again this point in terms of manpower planning is very important. So Sonil, I would say that in this case, it essentially doesn't matter whether how many employees are there. Business owners need to be more aware and need to take more interest and be very close and strategic in terms of watching what is happening in terms of their manpower movement with respect to their business movement.
So there is another important question, and I would encourage all the members who are there in the room. Please feel free to put in all your questions that you may have relating to your people and your team members. You can put it in the chat box, and we will very shortly be opening up a live Q&A where you can actually have a live conversation with Abhimanyu. So I'm just putting one last question from my side. Abhimanyu, this is an important one. Knowing the fact that COVID is and very unpredictable, and in the current scenario. So and it is something which cannot be predicted how things are coming in. Now, in the event, the employees are if they test positive or are, medically not well to attend to the business needs, or are not well and cannot continue functioning for a short span of time. In the current scenario, what should be the right way, in terms of compensating? Of course, I am sure in the current scenario, businesses are also finding it very, very tough to sail through on the right cash flows. The order size is very low. The continuity of business is very skeptical. And now, if there is, certain things wherein the employees and the medical conditions are also to be looked into, what should be the right way to adopt in this current scenario?
Okay. So, Sonal, I think very pertinent question looking at the current scenario. So I would say, in such a scenario, again, you can't have one size fit all sort of a solution. So you need to very closely look at, what is the state, how much the employee is impacted. So in certain cases, we see that, the health is okay, while of course the guidelines say that we need to follow the COVID guidelines. So as soon as you come to know, somebody is unwell or is tested positive, you need to isolate, and people need to follow the other protocols. But if health allows, employees continue to work, and of course, if the situation is not as such, then you should allow the leaves to be adjusted against the outstanding balance of that particular employee. So I'm assuming that the person is an existing employee, he would have some balance. In other cases where the balance is not there, still you can look at the company can look at case to case basis and see what could be done. But overall, I would say be empathetic in this scenario. Have a balanced approach. Avoid having extremes. Going to one end of the extreme. Either not giving anything or trying to do too much without having the wherewithal to do that. So I would say that have that sort of approach, which is a balanced approach.
Okay. So let me now open up the Q&A section, and all the people who are there in the room, please feel free to put it in the Q&A section, or if you want to have a live conversation, please raise your hands and I will try and take you to talk. I'll ask you to unmute yourself. आपको मैं बोलूँगा आप अपने आप को unmute कर सकते हैं. मैं यहाँ से आपको option दे दूँगा, and you can just put your questions straight away. So let me just start by taking the questions that are in the Q&A section first. So the first one is from an anonymous attendee. What is the minimum floor wage of India right now?
Okay, very interesting. So this is a concept which is getting introduced now, and we'll once the rules are notified and finalized, so we'll come to know about that. So we are also waiting for that.
Okay. So there is no such common wage rate for India. It all varies from state to state. Am I correct on this one?
It is, yeah. It is decided by the states.
Okay, great. So the second question is from Advocate Soumya. What about the issues related to the sexual harassment at the workplace in times of work from home?
Okay, I think interesting question. Soumya, it is, the definition as far as I just keep it short because that's a, complete separate act altogether, and it very clearly defines as to, what is the definition of workplace in such a case. And if there is, if the incident or the, particular case falls into that particular definition, it would surely get covered there.
So you mean to say there is at this point of time no such provision for work from home in that case?
No, so there is already a provision. So if the employee is for work, if the employee moves out to another facility, and so those sort of things are covered under the definition of workplace, and so that could be looked at. So there could be scenario in work from home also, which can come up. and which needs to be addressed by the employers.
Okay. So let me take another question from Yogesh Sharma. Yogesh, you have raised your hand. So Yogesh, I am just unmuting yourself right now. So please, you can put a question directly to Abhimanyu. Yogesh, you can unmute and you can ask the question.
I think could be network issue.
I don't think so. Yogesh, you can unmute yourself and you can ask the question directly.
Sir, these employees, these PF deduct in new labor code and 1,800 rupees, and the old labor code in minimum wage in that state is minimum wage 10,000, and new labor code in deduct PF in 1,800. So
Right.
my question is, if new labor code is a minimum wage, the deduct in PF 12%.
Okay. So what I think, Sonal, I could understand some part of it. So what I think what he's trying to say is that
you want me to ask Yogesh जी, अगर आप चाहें तो आप हिंदी में भी पूछ सकते हैं, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. आप एक बार दोबारा हिंदी में पूछ लीजिए.
सर मैं ये कह रहा था, जैसे एज किसी स्टेट की मिनिमम वेज 12,000 है, न्यू लेबर कोड के अकॉर्डिंग पीएफ डिडक्ट होता है 1,800 रुपये एज जो एम्प्लॉय का पार्ट है. एज अब 1,800 करता है, तो एज मिनिमम वेज के अकॉर्डिंग यदि 12,000 रुपये मिनिमम वेज है किसी स्टेट की, तो उसका 12% ही कटेगा ना.
Correct. So you're right. So if it is minimum wage, then it will be 12% of that minimum wage. So it is not blanket 1,800. मतलब पूरा 1,800 रुपए नहीं होगा. अगर 12,000 है या 10,000 है तो उसके ऊपर 12%.
So जो भी मिनिमम वेज रेट होगा उसके हिसाब से आपका 12% का रिडक्शन होगा, राइट?
Yes.
Okay. So Yogesh ji, I hope this the answer is satisfactory to you.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Any other question, Yogesh ji?
No, sir.
Okay. I have another question. Mr. Mohit Hora, he has raised his hand. So, Mr. Mohit, I have just unmuted yourself, and you can answer you can ask the question directly.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening, Mohit. I think you're on mute, Mohit.
Mohit, please unmute yourself again.
Mohit, you are on mute. Can you please unmute and ask your question?
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, hi Abhimanyu ji and Sunil ji.
Yeah.
I have two questions that I would like to ask you. We have our factory based in Bhiwadi, Rajasthan, and I am putting up in Gurgaon. So I have a salesperson in Gurgaon who keeps traveling to Noida, Gurgaon, and all the NCR region. So does the labor laws of Rajasthan that's going to apply for minimum wages, since the factory is in Rajasthan? He is not supposed to go every time to Rajasthan. Maybe once a month. He's not supposed to report there.
Okay. So Mohit,
my first question.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
So do you want me to ask the second question as well?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Now the second part of the question is that since we are based in Bhiwadi and we started small, so we don't have contracts signed from employees when they joined. So they've been with us for 15 years, maybe 20 years. So now if we want some of the employees, we want to relieve them. How to go about doing that? Because our hands are tied. We don't have any contracts with them.
Right.
That's a very valid question, Mr. Mohit.
Right. So, as far as the first one, you go see, there is a base location for every employee. So it depends if you are, filing the PF, ESI or, other deductions. If it is at Bhiwadi, then, it will be applicable at Bhiwadi. Or in certain cases, companies do have satellite offices or, branch offices, and an employee is based there, then it has to be done in that particular state. So if the employee you're showing at factory as in a base location, then it has to be the Bhiwadi location.
So how do we mark the attendance in such a case in Bhiwadi?
No, so attendance is a separate issue. I'm talking about as far as, of course, a sales employee would not be coming to the factory regularly. So that is up to you. There are a lot of online tools which are available in terms of attendance. So the person is out, you can, mark the attendance. Correct. But what I'm talking about is the base location of an employee, which is as per the returns or as per the challans that you file for that.
Right, sir. Person. Thank you so much for the first answer.
Yeah. And for second one, see, it is not an easy one to answer. Of course, it is sort of falling between black and white as to if there are no written agreements. So what we would suggest is that please go ahead and get the documents or the agreement signed. Have a professional, person to look closely and audit the existing practices and documents at your place, and then advise you the way forward. So it can be done. But I'll say have an audit done and take professional advice for this.
The fear that we have is that this is going to cause a lot of more turbulence if we start this activity now. This is one of our concerns.
Correct. So that's what. So it's important to make a start. So you already know that it is important to have a written document between two parties. So I'll say, any professional who's advising you will advise you on this also. So this could be handled. And I would suggest if you've identified, go ahead and fix it, for times to come.
Right, sir.
Right.
So, and if somebody achieves the age of 55 and then wants to rejoin, that we can refuse, right?
No, so I mean, if you talk a little bit in specifics, as you have already relieved that particular employee?
Yes, he has been relieved.
Yeah, so then it is up to the company to take a call whether they want to employ or decline it.
I think I will come back to you and we'll talk to you later as well to have the professional advice.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mohit.
Thank you, Mr.
Right.
Just to add up to what Abhimanyu has just shared, Moji, it is very important that, whenever you reappoint, if you choose to reappoint a person, so make sure the new contracts or the new documentation is been placed now. Also, at the time when you are redoing your salary hikes or when you are doing evaluation for a year, normally people do the evaluation in the month of April, where the last year evaluations are been taken care of. Even if in the current times where the hike is very difficult to handle, especially in our industry, the hike is very difficult. But even if there is a slight changes in any kind of terms, it may be changing your perks, it may be changing your compensation or the traveling allowance. Any kind of change in the perk or any structure that you change, it is very good कि अगर आप आज की डेट से उसको document करना शुरू कर दें. Even if you take those small steps, this will actually help you to take and avoid the legal hassles later on, because that will actually be a clear understanding for employee also and from the employer also, and both understand, and it is more like a win-win situation which actually avoids any kind of a legal recourse in a later point of time. I hope, Abhimanyu, that is just a add-on from my side.
Yes, very valuable advice. Yeah.
So any other question from anyone? I think I have kind of covered all the questions. To all the members who are there in the room, any question specific which is concerning to you, to your organization, to your team, आपके organization में आपकी team के अंदर ऐसा कोई question है जो आपके mind में है लेकिन unanswered सा है, so please feel free. You have a very awesome opportunity. Though we are almost running on time, we still have about 10 minutes before we can wind up the session. So if you have any question, you can raise it out and you can ask.
So Sonil, by the time the participants think about questions, I have couple of points quickly, if you allow me. 2-3 minutes I'll try and cover. So we spoke about 2 codes, so just for the benefit of participants, there are actually in total 4 codes. So we, due to paucity of time, we couldn't talk about the code on industrial relations and the code on occupational health safety. These are also extremely important. So just a few pointers for you, of course, can go back and do more research and read about it. So in the industrial relations code, there are actually 3 labor laws which are getting merged. The definition of worker and employer has been expanded to a large extent. A lot of other categories are now would come into this definition. There is something which we have already spoken about, fixed term employment, which is introduced, and the statutory benefits which are available to regular workers will now be applicable to these fixed term employment workers. So for example, if you keep somebody for a fixed term employment of 2 years, there is a provision that gratuity needs to be paid to that particular employee at the end of 2 years. So any employment beyond 1 year, the gratuity would need to be paid in that particular proportion. The current law stands at 5 years, as all of us are aware.
So in terms of the current laws, you mean to say even if the person is employed for less than 5 years, the gratuity still prevails?
Yeah, so in this particular provision, I'm talking about the fixed term employment. If, for example, if you keep somebody, so there is the nature of employment is different. You already have, have fixed for 2 years or 1 year. A lot of these industries keep such, letters or terms. And in that case, if it is less than 5 years, whatever provisions are applicable, you need to pay off proportionally to that particular employee. So this is one important change. And the last one in industrial relations code is layoff. So layoff or closure of the establishment. Currently it stands at less than 100. There is no need to take a formal approval. It is proposed to be increased to 300. So lot other industries or companies would come into this, where up to 300 people, direct or indirect, there is no need to go for a formal approval, which of course there are a lot of formalities and which is a long process. If you need to come to an eventuality where you need to close down or lay off a lot of people. So this is one for the benefit of everyone. And just quickly talking about the last code, which is occupational health safety, wherein actually there are 13 labor laws which have been merged into this particular code. So there are very, provisions which are very interesting and new, which have been introduced, and which actually helps the ease of doing business. One is that there is a provision for a single code allotment for an establishment. So as of now, if you see, the PF code is different, ESI code is different. So there are multiple codes. So there is a provision to have a single code and under which, all the compliances can be done. So which is, an important one. Second is the provisions around appointment letters. So, this again, Mr. Hora also touched upon this point. So it is extremely important going forward to have written agreements with employees and clear contracts, because the code lays down a provision where you need to give out letters and have such agreements in place. And also, for people who have larger factories set up just for their interest, that, there is a provision for existing provisions also to have welfare officers and safety officers in factories. Right. So which has change in terms of number of people. In the old provisions, welfare officers need to be there in factories, where 500 or more employees are there. So this would come down to 250. And similarly, safety officers, as of now, it is 1,000 people or more. You need to employ a safety officer. Now it will be applicable on companies who have 500 or more. So I thought, since we said that we will be talking about these 4 codes, just to give an overview about the other 2 codes also. Of course, people, participants can go
No,
back.
it's a very valid. No, it's a very valid area, and people should be aware of it. I think Yogesh Sharma has a question, and I could see Mr. Mukesh Suneja has also raised his hand. Mr. Mukesh, you would like to talk? You want to ask a question directly? Mr. Mukesh, you would like to? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to know that in case if we have multiple business companies, so if one of the company is not being registered so far due to some reasons where we did not get it registered in Factory Act or something. So now if we want to continue with that, the business was not happening, but now if we want to restart, can we do it, or the old things would also, get accountability done in that?
So, thanks for the question, Mr. Suneja. Law, of course, looks at entities, legal entities. So if you have multiple companies and, any of those companies falling into the ambit of any of the labor laws, of course, you need to go ahead and register. Again, I would suggest that, talk to people who are specialists, who are, maybe I'm sure you would also have somebody to advise you as to how to go about it. But certainly you need to go ahead and get the registrations done if the number of people, are making the company fall into that ambit.
Okay. So we want to restart the company, which has not been in operation, but we want to restart it. So even again, if I do it, is it counted as a fresh, or the old liability still can hinder our restarting the company?
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Suneja, again, this is a specific case. So we need to look at, things like how many people, how old was the company, what was happening, and now what is the status. And then we can, give a specific advice as to how to go about it. But,
okay.
What I would say is definitely even if you're restarting, you should go ahead and register.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Right.
Abhimanyu, in this particular case, will the number of people again matter? It has to be above 10 or 20 people, which is the normal nuances, right?
Yeah. So as of now, as things stand, because of the pandemic, things are moving a little slow. But we expect, as soon as the state governments start, drafting rules and notifying, things would come back on track. So as things stand, yes, it is, for example, ESI 10 or more people, PF 20 or more people. So those things stand.
Okay. Mr. Mukesh, do you have any other question at this point of time?
No, thank you. Actually, I joined pretty late. I could not add myself due to, I think the password was not available. So probably I would like to have the recording if it is possible. Thank you so much.
We will do that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Yogesh, you had raised your hand. You want to still ask another question?
225.
Huh?
225.
Yeah, Mr. Yogesh.
हाँ, मेरा क्वेश्चन ये था, जी मैंने न्यू लेबर कोड के बारे में पढ़ रहा था, तो उसमें कुछ मैंने पढ़ा था ये कि 4 डे वर्किंग भी कर सकता है एज ए एम्प्लॉय, और एम्प्लॉय के भी कोऑर्डिनेट मतलब अच्छा हो जाता है, तो 12 घंटे का वर्किंग टाइम करते, तो एज ए सूटेबल हो सकता है या नहीं? एज ए यदि एम्प्लॉय और एम्प्लॉय दोनों कंफर्ट होते हैं न्यू लेबर कोड के अकॉर्डिंग, एज ए मैक्सिमम टाइमिंग इज वर्किंग आवर इज 8 घंटे या 9 आवर होता है? both our employer and employer are coordinate and timing is 12 घंटे 1 day working hours and a 4 day working.
No, so Yogesh, if I understand your question correctly, see, as things stand, the same provisions apply for daily number of hours as well as the overtime in a quarter. So it cannot extend, beyond a particular point. But if there is contingency and if the employee has to extend beyond a point, so let's say instead of 9 hours, the employee has to extend to 12 hours or more, it can be done once in a while, provided the, other provisions are taken care.
So, Abhimanyu, मैं ना एक थोड़े से different तरीके से बताता हूँ, and let me try to address this from a factory and a manufacturing setup point of view. Typically in a textile business or in a fashion manufacturing business, जो normal shift होती है एक person की, वो 8 या 9 hours की ना होके 12 hours की होती है, because it is like a back-to-back running on the machine. When the factory is running on 24 hours basis, तो back-to-back shifts चल रही होती हैं, and the current understanding जो between an employer and employee होती है, वो 12 hours की होती है. However, in the books, it is always 8 hours. Yogesh ji, am I correct in putting the question? So this case में, what should be the right provision? And because the teams have been handled in such a way कि वो आती ही 12 hours के basis पे employment की जाती है, because double shift में काम होता है. 3 shifts are not something which is practical and possible in our industry. So without changing this, can we ensure कि इसमें कोई हमारे changes नहीं है?
No, so again, there is, it is a tricky area. So, what you are doing, so I would not comment on that. But what I would say is that legally speaking, I would advise that, look at the provisions closely and try and ensure that you are following them well, right? And also managing your business.
Okay. So in one way, whatever are the compliances that have to be taken care of?
Should be taken care, yes.
Yeah. So Yogesh ji, I hope that particular answers your question.
Sonil ji, अभी शायद कुछ इन्होंने changes किया था कि you can go for 12 hours. Something during the pandemic इस तरीके से कुछ बात आया था, but I'm not too sure if that has continued.
So, Mr. Hora, it was done for a short period. During the pandemic, some of the state governments did that. Some of the governments didn't do it. It also got challenged in the courts. So, as such, our advice would be that look at the provisions and follow the provisions, follow the compliances to be
done. I think this is something which requires a more like a detailed investigation also. So it would require somewhere you take a one-to-one kind of an advice as to what can work best for your factory, based on your location, based on your setups. What works for you, your factory will be the right way. Abhimanyu, I think that should be the right way of addressing.
Yeah. So it is always good to, like I mentioned, take professional advice and move forward. And Sonil, it's important once you realize, then I always suggest that at least take action and ensure that, future, those things are taken care in future.
Okay. So quickly, let me take one last question, which is there in the Q&A section by anonymous attendee. What will be the gratuity rule apply on, will the gratuity rule apply for a new hire and an old hire too? So old hire and new hire, I'll leave it to you.
Okay. No, so see, as far as the gratuity rules, current things stand, the applicability, there is no change, it is 21,000. And as such, in terms of tenure also, it stands at 5 years. But there is a provision where, it is allowed, it is proposed to be allowed, in terms of proportionate to the tenure of the person, even if it is less than 5 years. So between 1 and 5 years, it is there, and it will need to be paid. Sonil, I hope I got the question right? Can
the question was basically that does the rule apply to new hiree and the old hiree both?
So yes, so gratuity, as long as the person is completing the tenure, it applies to both.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Mohra, please go ahead and ask your last question.
Hanji Abhimanyu ji, sorry, I'm asking one more time, but
please.
Nobody else is asking. I got some query.
Yeah.
One of my guys achieved 58 and he retired. Now he wants to join back. And if I agree to him to join back, since he's more than 58 years old, can I have a contract with him कि आप 1 year के बाद we will review the situation, yeah, I can terminate you anytime I want, since he has already retired and achieved the age of 58.
So, Mr. Hora, you can go ahead and have a fixed term employment. Currently also, if we see in the industry, retainership contracts are available. So you can take advice and keep the employee on fixed term contract. And the terms need to be fresh terms, depending on the current scenario as to what is the work and what is the expectation from the employee, and go ahead and do it. There is no issue.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, please.
Okay. So I believe we have a very nice, healthy discussions in today's session. And I hope कि जितने लोगों ने भी यहाँ पे participate किया and everybody had got some real value out of this discussion as a whole. Once again, I would like to thank Abhimanyu for coming and sharing the insights and the content which was shared by Fair and Global Services. I would also like to thank VN International, our corporate gifting partners. They have sponsored this diary. I'm organizer for you. It's a very smart organizer. Please feel free to put in your feedbacks and your mailing address there, and the team will the VN team will courier this to you at your mailing address. Thank you. And we would also expect, in case if you can, please share your feedback about this session. Just about to, before we close in, we would like to just share the next week on the 6th of May, we have a very, very important session. And last session was attended by about 70 odd companies across from South Asia and the world. We had buyers from Canada, from Poland, Italy, Dubai. So, I mean, a lot of those opportunities come in, and Sotex team works very, very hard to make sure this networking session becomes an important takeaway for businesses. And this is a live opportunity for you to come and network with the community at large, not only within India, but across the world. So please feel free to register yourself. The link of the next session will be shared to you by the team Sotex on the chat box, as well as on the fact that all this communication about the next session will also be shared to you on the email or on all your WhatsApps. Lastly, before we close down today's session, I hope it was a real value and takeaway for you. Please feel free to reach out to Team Sotex should you have more questions. Even if you would like to connect to Fairant and to Mr. Abhimanyu for your factory needs, please feel free to reach out to him through us or through LinkedIn, whichever way you feel it's comfortable to you. And we will be happy to connect you with them and the Fairant Global for your business needs.
And Sonil, before you close, yes, we would also, I mean, I'd like to thank you and Sotex for inviting us for this event. And I wish all the participants, they stay strong and stay safe, yes, right?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your closing comments. And thank you to all the people for joining us in today's session. And we thank you for sparing your valuable time in this current situation. To all the members, we all feel free. We are all part of community and we are all together. I know the situation is challenging and the times are not easy, but we all have to put in the brave front. हम लोगों को strong रहना है, and we have to take care of ourselves also and our team's members also. on the upcoming Labor Day and on behalf of Team Sotex, we thank you once again for joining us in today's session. Thank you, Abhimanyu. Thank you to Fair and Team, and thank you to Team Sotex for taking this opportunity and inviting all the members, putting the hard work, making sure this event is successful. Thank you once again for joining us today in this evening. Take care and stay safe, guys.